As we know, Squidward is always being tortured, but who's really behind the torturing? Well, I'm gonna watch these 9 episodes to figure it out. The first episode of Squidward being tortured is jellyfishing. The episode starts with SpongeBob and Patrick spying on a jellyfish, then going through some superhero sequence to go catch the jellyfish. Ultimately, they fail, but they end up at Squidward's door, and they ask if he wants to go jellyfishing with them, and of course he doesn't want to. Then we get our first glimpse at some Squidward torture as he bikes off. He's just chilling, laughing, and biking, and a jellyfish ends up going into his mouth, which then makes him lose control, and he goes flying off a cliff and literally blows up, which then results in him coming back in an entire cast and wheelchair. And to make things so much better, SpongeBob and Patrick try to cheer him up by trespassing in his house and throwing him a little welcome home party, which seems sweet. But then Patrick just starts blowing this hot soup into his face, and since Squidward can't talk now, SpongeBob forces him to go jellyfishing, which can't be a good idea. He even tries leaving, but SpongeBob brings him right back, and then Patrick tries giving him the net, but obviously he can't grab it in this cast, so Patrick jams it right through his hand. Then Squidward gets sick of the jellyfish and actually goes to catch a jellyfish. But to his incredible luck, the jellyfish goes to the mommy jellyfish, and this dude gets stung by the biggest jellyfish I've ever seen, while SpongeBob and Patrick just cheer him on. And they honestly got pretty messed up too, but not as messed up as Squidward, who comes home in an even bigger cast in a bed. And SpongeBob and Patrick actually try to apologize to Squidward, which is nice of them, and they bring him a little present of the jellyfish he couldn't get. So he lets it out on them and gets a good little laugh, until the mommy jellyfish just so happens to come out of nowhere and sting him again. This dude gets no breaks the entire episode. Now from this episode, it's clear he's getting tortured, but it's hard to place the blame on anyone yet. Yes, Patrick did some questionable stuff, and I do think he was aware of what he was doing since he apologized in the end, but the main torture of this episode came from the jellyfish, and you can't really blame nature. So let's go to the next episode. Are you happy now? This episode starts with Squidward getting annoyed with SpongeBob laughing at a book, which is pretty normal, but we're gonna skip to the torture. So for context first, Squidward has no happy memories, so SpongeBob makes it his mission to give him a happy memory. So he started with going to a music concert, and Squidward is actually enjoying it too, until the violinist's bow gets flung into his eye. So then they go to the art museum, and it goes good too, because Squidward sees one of his art pieces in the museum, and he's gaining his happiest memory until his fist just burns down the entire art piece, which obviously makes him sad. So SpongeBob then takes this dude hot air ballooning, and this is just instantly bad, because Squidward's afraid of heights. And so SpongeBob just pops the balloon, and they end up on a mountain. And then SpongeBob ends up slamming a flagpole right into this dude's foot, which then causes a literal avalanche. So after all of that torture, Squidward gives up on having a happy memory and goes home all depressed. Now he doesn't really get tortured while being home, but we can really see the toll that all this torture causes on poor Squidward, and it finally got to him. He becomes insanely depressed, and there's even hints at Squidward doing something awful to himself during the episode. Now SpongeBob tries his hardest to make Squidward happy, but no matter what he does, he makes him more depressed, and this is pretty important. But anyways, in the end, SpongeBob literally kidnaps Squidward and throws him into a happy memory party with a bunch of paper mache SpongeBobs, and then he starts just violently ripping all of them apart, and it turns out to actually be his happiest memory. But I want you to focus on how insane he looks doing this, and how happy it makes him. Like he's taking out some repressed anger on SpongeBob, imagining he's actually killing him. Now this episode seems like an episode where SpongeBob was torturing Squidward, and it kinda is, but it's hard to pin the blame on him when he's not even trying to torture Squidward. It just happens no matter what he does. It's like SpongeBob is cursed to torture Squidward no matter what. And that might sound crazy now, but it might actually make sense later. Now since we're talking about how much Squidward hates SpongeBob, that brings me to my next episode, Dying for Pie. The episode starts with us seeing how annoyed Squidward is with SpongeBob, just like last episode. Squidward needs to buy a gift for SpongeBob, for employee brotherhood, since SpongeBob got him a gift of an eyelash sweater and a tear sweater. And Mr. Crab forces Squidward to get him a gift as well. So he sees these pirates in the back with these pies, which they literally say are not pies, they are bombs. But Squidward still ends up buying a pie for 25 bucks and shows the gift to Mr. Krabs. And we watch as Mr. Krabs drops a little crumb and half the Krusty Krab just blows up. And guess what? SpongeBob ends up licking his fingers and thanking Squidward for the pie. So that means he ate the bomb. Now here's where we're gonna see a side of Squidward we never really see. Squidward starts to freak out and even starts crying over SpongeBob and decides it's gonna make SpongeBob's last hours amazing. He gives SpongeBob a great day of doing everything he wants to do and making him so happy, which is actually pretty sweet. That SpongeBob is finally getting the friend he so desperately wants out of Squidward. And while this moment is cute and all, I want to skip to the most important part of the episode. So SpongeBob and Squidward are laying down watching a sunset, and supposedly once the sun sets, SpongeBob is gonna blow up. And SpongeBob even says that if he was to die right now, he would be happy that he got to spend his last day with Squidward. And this is just such a sad line. And this even hits Squidward right in the heart too. But as the sun sets, Squidward is sweating nervously, and it seems SpongeBob blew up, and Squidward is bawling his eyes out. But turns out, it was just SpongeBob blowing bomb bubbles. He didn't actually blow up. And Squidward is actually mad that he didn't die. And turns out, SpongeBob didn't even eat the pie, because he wanted to share it with Squidward. But then he ends up tripping and the pie blows up in Squidward's face, which of course always Squidward getting tortured somehow. Now in this episode, Squidward didn't really say anything that important to SpongeBob, but it was more how he reacted. Yes, he was mad he didn't die, but that was only because it was like he got pranked. and wasted his entire day. But besides that, Squidward was very upset and was bawling his eyes out over Spongebob, which has to show that even though SpongeBob tortures him, he still deeply cares about him. But this leads me to another episode, where Squidward verbally confirms he cares about SpongeBob, which is in the episode Graveyard Shift. Now most of us know this episode, but I'll recap it really quick. Pretty much, SpongeBob and Squidward working the night shift at the Krusty Krab. SpongeBob is terrified of the night, so Squidward pulls a prank on SpongeBob and tells him his made up story about the hash-slinging slasher. Thing is though, his fake story starts to become real, and this is where the important scene happens. So as the hash-slinging slasher enters the Krusty Krab, Squidward is hugging SpongeBob terrified, thinking he's about to die, and he says,
SpongeBob, no matter what I said, I always sort of liked you.
Which is such an important line. SpongeBob is one of Squidward's primary source of torture, but even though he still likes SpongeBob, there's no question he's still getting tortured by him. So SpongeBob is not in the clear yet. So we need to watch one more episode to better understand his dynamic. The episode Not Normal. Now I always thought SpongeBob was not smart enough to realize he was torturing people and was simply unaware, but this episode changed my view on that. The episode starts with Squidward sleeping peacefully until he's woken up by SpongeBob's loud laughter. And speaking of sleep, this video was sponsored by Manta Sleep. Now just like Squidward, sometimes you don't get the best sleep, but that's where Manta Sleep comes in. Whether you're struggling with noisy neighbors, bright lights, or just need a nice relaxing sleep, Manta Sleep's masks have you covered. Their masks are designed with true 100% blackout, ensuring you get a deep uninterrupted sleep. And they're not just regular sleep masks. They've got different masks tailored for whatever kind of sleep you need. Take the Manta Sleep Mask Pro for example. It's perfect for side sleepers with its C-shaped eye cups, giving you total blackout without any pressure on your eyelids or lashes. And if you love some music or white noise while drifting off, you've got to check out the Manta Sleep Sound with razor-thin Bluetooth headphones that last up to 20 hours on a single charge. Manta Sleep was actually kind of sending me this mask, and I can't even lie, I was shocked at how comfortable it was. No matter which one you choose, every mask offers a comfortable custom fit. They're infinitely adjustable and made with high quality breathable materials to keep you cool and relaxed all night. So if you're ready to upgrade your sleep game, visit Manta Sleep using the link in the description and use my discount code Maximo10 to get 10% off your order. But anyways, back to the video. So SpongeBob being loud drives Squidward insane, and he comes over to his house yelling at him. And at first, SpongeBob doesn't really care at all, until Squidward says he's not normal. And SpongeBob actually takes offense to this, when usually he could care less about Squidward's remarks. And because of this one comment, SpongeBob ends up watching a movie about how to be normal and completely loses himself just to make Squidward happy. This finally showing a deeper side of SpongeBob that makes him feel so much more real. Usually we just see SpongeBob just blatantly torturing everyone and not caring at all what anyone thinks about him and just ignoring them. But this episode is so different. SpongeBob actually gets insecure. Now you might think, oh, so if he's aware, why does he keep torturing everyone? Well, I can explain this with the end of the episode. So in the end of the episode, everyone ends up actually hating the normal version of SpongeBob. So he has to revert back to regular SpongeBob. This further showing him that even though he is annoying, it's just who he is, and people love him for who he is. So with this knowledge, that takes SpongeBob right off the suspect list, because he isn't doing this on purpose. It's just who he is. He literally can't help it. So with SpongeBob off the list, who else can we blame for Squidward's torture? I like to say Patrick as well, but I think he kind of falls into the same category as SpongeBob, as they're very similar. So I'll take him off the suspect list too. So this leaving only 2 more suspects. But before I mention them, we need to watch the next episode, which is Feral Friends. Now this is an episode that shows Squidward being tortured, so you may be confused why I'm showing you this. But it is an episode that shows a potential suspect, the narrator, aka Frenchie. The narrator isn't just a voice, but he's an actual character in the universe, who is making the show in the universe. In this episode, he watches a green sun comes up and makes all the characters into their feral real life selves. For example, Mr. Krabs becomes a regular old crab, Squidward becomes a terrifying squid, and SpongeBob becomes just a sponge. And what's crazy about all of this is when they get transformed, they are completely different. They are just feral creatures. And even when being reverted back, they don't remember anything. Also, Sandy's a land creature, so she's not affected by the moon. So when this happens, she literally calls the narrator, which is crazy. But anyways, here's what I think is actually going on. The narrator wanted to make an interesting kids show, and he knew kids love fish. So he went and found Bikini Bottom. Then he found a way to make them self-aware and real creatures that could talk and be fun and provide a great show. Now while this episode just shows the narrator as an actual character, there's even more proof that he's the one making the show throughout other episodes. In the episode Truth or Square, we watch as a gang enters Mr. Krabs' surveillance room, which has cameras of the entirety of Bikini Bottom. And while at first, it seems like Mr. Krabs is just a weird stalker, but then one of the cameras ends up being a back shot of them, which then cuts to a fish camera crew, one with a camera and one with a mic boom. This completely breaking the fourth wall and showing that this show is actually being recorded live in Bikini Bottom. It is not just a simple old cartoon. Since this camera angle took place in Mr. Krabs' surveillance room, it means all these cameras also take place to create the show. Now knowing this, it either means that the fish are helping out the narrator is paying them, or the narrator is more powerful than we think and forcing these fish to cooperate to make this show. Not only that, but in the episode No Free Rides, we watch as SpongeBob actually hits narrator while taking his boating test, and we watch as the camera breaks. And we see the narrator on the floor with a camera. Now you may be confused why I bring this up, since this is a torture theory about Squidward. But with this new knowledge, it shows that everything we are watching is probably just an act. and everything happening is being forced by a narrator. So all these times that Squidward being tortured could be because the narrator thinks it would be more funny. Before I go putting blame on narrator though, I need to reveal the last suspect, Nickelodeon. It's no question, Nickelodeon thinks torture is hilarious. And I mean, it makes sense. Kids for some reason love seeing people get hurt. I don't know why, but it works. And it seems Nickelodeon loves this formula to produce laughs. And to be honest, it's not even only with Squidward. Mrs. Puff is constantly tortured, Mr. Krabs gets tortured, even Spongebob sometimes. But it makes the most sense to torture Squidward. Everyone loves Spongebob. And torturing the one mean guy who hates SpongeBob is perfect. He has funny reactions, and it's just karma for being mean to my little sponge boy. So yeah, it makes sense to blame Nickelodeon, but it's just simply not true. Because Nickelodeon technically aren't the ones making the show. The narrator is. Nickelodeon uploads the show, but the narrator gives him the footage that he takes from Bikini Bottom. The narrator is puppeteering with all of Bikini Bottom, and it's purposely torturing Squidward because it makes his show better. And I mean, it makes sense. Think about what we talked about earlier. SpongeBob loves Squidward and just wants to be his friend. And Squidward likes SpongeBob too. I honestly think if their life wasn't being recorded, they'd be great friends. But that wouldn't make for a good episode. This is even the same with Mr. Krabs and Plankton. In the episode Best Frenemies, we see that they actually like each other and are a good team and quite enjoy the little dynamic and don't hate each other at all. But like I said, it wouldn't make a good episode if they didn't hate each other. The narrator is powerful. I mean, if he has random fish playing cameraman and even has Mr. Krabs setting up cameras in a secret room for him, he has to have some control over these fish. I don't even think SpongeBob would be as annoying if it wasn't for putting on an act for the camera. The entire world of SpongeBob is fake, and this also means Squidward being tortured is all for the camera, to better entertain the audience. So maybe it's actually our fault for enjoying Squidward being tortured so much. The narrator is the reason behind Squidward's torture. Or I don't know, maybe I'm just overthinking and it's not that deep and it's just a show and it's actually Nickelodeon's fault and no one else's, but that's boring. It's the narrator's fault. I rest my case, it's the narrator's fault. The narrator is torturing Squidward.